mulo randam veedu thai vaayere moonu veru mandiriyo randam veedu thai vaayere.
The first hand for the fishermen, the second for the mothers, and the third for the community. The song is about the hardship of going to sea. It gives them strength to pull the net out of the water. Millions of people along India's coastline make a living by fishing from the fruit of the sea. Each day they cast their nets to feed their families and to supply India with the valuable seafood. Everyone hopes for a good catch, but today their efforts were hardly rewarded. A few squid and one larger fish. For the community, there's only a few silverfish. It's becoming increasingly difficult for the fishermen on the south coast of India to survive. Lots of families now use modern motorboats, but otherwise it's an existence based on tradition. At the market, the women handle the trading. They sell what their husbands catch, and they manage the money. Mending the nets and maintaining the boats is the work of the men. One of them is Agostino. His family has belonged to the fisher caste for generations. His whole life revolves around the sea. Is he proud to be a fisherman?
I was born a fisherman. I've been going out to sea since I was 12, but I'm still a free man. I still have control over myself and my boat. I like my life. I'm proud that, unlike office workers or factory workers, I'm independent. If the weather's bad, I don't go out. I'm just as independent as India.
Agostino in search of the big catch. Depending on the weather and how much petrol he has, he goes out to sea. The best fishing is in the early morning hours just after sunrise. Agostino uses a fishing line with lots of hooks and spinners attached. It's painstaking work, but it causes the least damage to the fish. It's mostly larger fish that are caught on the hooks. Smaller ones can be tossed back in the sea. Agostino and the other fishermen have years of experience with the rhythm of the sea, so they keep to the rules of nature. Despite this, the fish are less plentiful, and Agostino can rarely rejoice over a large catch. After 5 hours of waiting, the hooks are carefully brought back on board. Then it's off to another area where the catch might be better. More and more often they pass the factory ships of international fishing fleets from countries such as Russia, Norway, Japan, and Taiwan. They frequently breach the 30-mile zone that they're not supposed to fish in. With satellite-guided navigation systems, the trawlers can easily find the large schools of fish and fish good areas clean. Exactly on those spots where Agostino knows it's worth dropping his lines. Most fishermen don't have enough money for petrol, so they try their luck close to the coast. But here they can be happy if they catch a single squid. It's a real event. Back in the harbor, the dealer from the city is waiting to buy up the catch. He works for international seafood export companies. Word has gotten around that Agostino was able to go far out to sea. The bargaining begins immediately.
110, 120, 370. We could drink a whiskey on that. Come on, let's drink a whiskey. That's a good price. What did I just say? What is he getting? 370? That's too much. Okay, whatever. I'll give him 400 today.
400 rupees, that's 10 euro. A rare good catch. So, for a change, the family can afford to keep a large fish for themselves. That's why at home, there's fish curry for dinner. Agostino's wife is a good cook. As the wife of a fisherman, she knows lots of recipes. But the curry has already been prepared by her mother. It's a special family recipe. When the men come home from the harbor, good smells are already coming from the kitchen. The fish is steamed in a curry sauce with coriander, chili, and coconut milk. Agostino uses the time to relax after his 10-hour shift. The fisherman has 4 sons to raise. He often worries about his children's future because the trawlers are emptying the sea of fish. In a few years' time, no traditional fisherman will be able to live off what they catch. An entire caste is doomed to disappear.
I wish my sons could have a more secure occupation. For example, being a civil servant for the government. But fishermen belong to one of the lower castes, so there's no way to move up in life. But at least we've made sure that our children have learned to read and write. That's the least I can do, even if they have to become fishermen like me.
One of the biggest problems for the fishermen is the high cost of an outboard motor. Even after 10 years, they haven't managed to pay off their credit. And because the price of petrol has gone up lately, they have to budget accordingly. It's a vicious cycle. For a good catch, you need to have a motorboat, and petrol is expensive. Since the government has taken away the subsidies, they can hardly afford not to work for a day. Most of them even have to go to sea at night.
Although we go out twice a day, we can hardly make a living. We just can't compete against the big trawlers with the huge nets. They fish everything away. Normally the fish stocks should be recovered by now after the monsoon period, where there was no fishing. I really don't know how we will go on.
The next morning, the Fishermen's Union holds a meeting. It's about the trawlers and the fishing ban during the monsoon period. Tom Kochary is the union's founder and by now the spokesperson for all of India's fishermen.
We have to rally together hundreds of people so that the fishing ban during the monsoon is adhered to by everyone. It's really strange. Usually after the monsoon there's an abundance of fish, but not now since the ban isn't kept to. It angers me that the government works together with the owners of the large fishing fleets.
The government wanted to work with us so that the fishing ban is respected. But what do? They negotiate with the international fishing companies and don't even tell us what agreements they've come to.
The fishermen must be informed about what the government is doing. It must keep its promise to protect our fish stocks, and the fishing union must insist that the government keeps to its promise. But none of this is working. The big trawlers fish when and where they want to. Yes, in the past there were seminars so that everybody would know how important it is to keep to the fishing ban. But that's being undermined by the big fishing fleets. We have to organize more and demonstrate. It's not right that our government supports the international fishing companies.
The future of 4 million traditional fishermen and their families is at stake here, and the fish supply of the entire coastal population of India.
These vessels will go to Indian waters and ACP countries. Indirectly, their subsidy is displacing the traditional fisher people. And economic-wise also there is no return. And at the same time there is a big demand in Europe also. And naturally these subsidies are also important for them to supply the protein to the consumers in Europe.
A war is being waged in the Indian Ocean for the last fish stocks in the world.
We got together to try and drive away the big ships, but they pointed guns at us.
The competition is getting harder, and fish is becoming more and more valuable because the demand in Europe is so high. The protein delicacy is still cheap in India. European development aid was pumped into the construction of modern harbors, which enable the goods to be shipped directly to Europe. Here, the really large fish are sold at auction.
2,000, 2,150, 2,500 rupees, a little bit higher.
The exporters win every time because they can afford to pay the most. The Indian fishermen with their small boats only rarely manage to catch such large exotic fish.
The international fishing trawlers are plundering our ocean. This large fleet is destroying the very basis of our existence.
He says our livelihood is at stake because of those foreign vessels.
We fish from 5 o'clock in the morning till 11 at night, but these thieves are always out there and don't leave anything for us.
We go fishing 5 to 11, but those big ships, vessels are there all throughout, and they leave nothing at all for us.
Not only the existence of millions of fishermen is in danger, but also a vital source of protein for the Indian population. Meat is not an option for many Indian people either for religious reasons, or simply because they can't afford it. Fish is irreplaceable, and everyone is out to hunt for it. With larger and larger nets and smaller meshes, the ocean is rapidly being emptied. Such fishing methods mean that even young fish and small marine life is dragged into the net. The bycatch is enormous. There is no chance for fish to reproduce, and the fish stocks can't recover. But even the bycatch is good for the export business. It's turned into animal feed used by shrimp farms. There are thousands of brackish water basins along India's coastline. The fertile mangrove forests, the breeding ground for fish, had to give way to the aqua farm industry. To make these profitable tiger shrimps grow faster, they're given high-energy feed, protein which the Indian population is denied. Apart from fish meal, crabs, squid, cod liver oil, and soybean flour are fed to the shrimps. This kind of mass breeding leads to more problems. The pools are crowded, and the animals are prone to illness. Farmers have to react quickly if an epidemic breaks out.
And do you have to give them any medicine?
Sometimes I give them medicine. If there are complications, I give them medicine.
Special chemicals for use in aquacultures. Shrimp farmers can get hold of most chemicals without a prescription. Growth hormones and antibiotics against infections are readily available. This vendor offers all sorts of chlorinated disinfectants as a remedy to stop viruses from spreading.
What for that? For disinfecting the body.
We are filming with a hidden camera as illegal antibiotics are being offered here. His sign warns about this, but in the large farms, the vendor tells us these chemicals are still being used. The poison doesn't just contaminate the animals. The wastewater of the breeding pools is also toxic. It's disposed of nearby, where it seeps into the ground. The shrimp industry is booming. Breeding pools are located mainly in mangrove swamps, as the brackish water is suited to aqua farming. But this is destroying the breeding ground of the fish. Instead of growing more protein, the farmers are preventing the fish stocks from regenerating. Agostino remembers how it was.
When I was a kid, 30 years ago, there were so many fish. Every day we were out on the sea. I feel so sad because now there are fewer and fewer.
All that remains is a salty desert. The residues of the medicine end up in the groundwater. The surrounding villages are suffering from a drought. The wells are empty. Only once a week do the villagers get clean drinking water. They've had to pool their money to afford this water supply. The tractor has to drive a long way to get the drinking water. The fishermen's families are financially ruined because the destruction of the mangroves is making the fish stock shrink more and more. They are the losers in the fight for protein.
We are basically being ruined. There's less and less fish and no water. These farms are a curse. They are making us poor and sick. I took them to court in Delhi. We won. The farms are supposed to shut down, but they continue to poison us. Look at our children. Since the farms have been here, their wounds no longer heal, and the drugs don't work.
Shrimp farms are a short-term business, as breeding basins can only be used for 5 years. After that, the ground is contaminated because most farmers don't have sufficient know-how to breed shrimp in a responsible and sustainable way. All they want is a high and fast return. With a bit of luck, they can harvest a crop 3 times a year. It's a tempting business, tempting enough for farmers to ignore the fact that this kind of shrimp breeding has long been outlawed in India because it destroys the environment. The ban has made things even worse. It's driven up the price of shrimp because there is less competition and the buyers of the export companies are constantly on the lookout for new suppliers. The price is determined by size and weight. It's important that the shrimp look good and are exactly the size the exporters are looking for. The Indian dealers are only interested in making a quick rupee. They don't care how much land was ruined by the aquacultures. They don't ask either how many antibiotics and hormones were fed to the shrimp. No fisherman in India can afford to eat shrimp. Protein by the ton for European gourmets. Only few businesses fulfill the high standards necessary to ship fish and shrimp to Europe. These companies are checked on a regular basis by a delegation of the European Commission. The inspectors have obviously failed to notice that this company employs children. Teva & Company exports 32 million euro worth of seafood a year. Of the 700 shrimp farms that supply this company, only 20 are legal. Contaminated shrimp are regularly sent back or destroyed.
They have found some chloramphenicol, like antibiotics, which is giving to that farm for the seeds, for the growth. See, sometimes, actually all the farmers are using, even though after feeding these antibiotics, some 20 days they have to give. Then only they have to do the harvest. Suppose if they do the harvest at the earlier stage, definitely it will affect the prawns.
These problems don't exist with fish, and the wonderfully low prices make seafood an export hit. Supported by the Indian government, Teva & Company has doubled its turnover in just 5 years. It even received awards for the best fish and seafood processor in the country. India's model exporter is doing business in all markets of the rich Western world.
Which? That's right. Yes, German. Because it goes to all mainly for German and Europe market and also to Japan. So we have printed all the. So here they mentioned what is the size inside. That's right. Caught in Indian Ocean. It's a rules. It's a European rules from where it is being caught. So now we are mentioning here also FO area 51 and 57. So this.
Perfect management for hard euros.
See, our Indian economy is like that. So we people get the cheaper varieties. See, very costly variety we are doing the export. We are in need of foreign currency, so we are doing the business.
Tons of protein for the well-fed gourmets of the West. Different kinds of fish in all shapes and sizes, empty oceans and ruined land. Protein which the local people lack. Boxes and boxes of deep frozen fish for hard currency. The port of Hamburg. The fishing boats of global traders fish only by the container load. More than half the seafood imported into the European Union comes from the so-called Third World, because the sea closer to home is already empty. The import regulations are strict, and the Europeans control the market. The trade laws are primarily laid out by the rich countries, all in the name of protecting European consumers. Every food container is checked by the port's veterinary authorities. First, the temperature of the frozen product is checked. 1 degree too warm could mean it's not safe enough for the European market, and the whole container goes back to India. The inspectors check thoroughly whether what's on the label is what's inside. The finest fish fillet, what looks this good, has no problems passing the inspectors. The results of the import controls for shrimp are often far less appetizing. More than half come from breeding basins, even if the label says ocean delicacies. In suspicious cases, health inspectors keep testing. In Asian shrimps, they've found dangerous bacteria like cholera. The biggest problem are the residues of hormones and antibiotics.
It's dangerous and a threat for the consumer's health. Chloramphenicol and nitrofuran, and that's a fact, are dangerous even in small quantities. That's why we check everything. Our rules are very strict. If we find any residues, we do not just send the prawns back, but destroy them instead.
Because of this health hazard, the European authorities temporarily imposed an import ban on shrimp from China and Thailand. The trade in Indian shrimp, however, is booming. And even scandals about antibiotics in shrimp haven't made Europeans lose their appetite for the stolen protein. With our own fish stock so diminished, why not turn to more exotic seafood? The European consumer has the choice. There's not much left for the Indians. Their protein is being stolen, and their farmland is being destroyed by shrimp farms. But the proud Indian fishermen resist. With strong voices and small boats, they disturb the unfair global trade. They do it for the fate of the traditional fishermen and for the nutrition of a nation. Agostino won't give up.
We can't let them plunder our oceans any longer. The sea and what's in it belongs to us, the traditional fishermen. Of course, we can share some of our fish with you, but only if you let us catch it. Otherwise, there won't be any left in future.
Hopefully, European consumers will hear the words of the fishermen. It's the only way the exotic delicacies of the Indian Ocean will be available in the long term, and the only hope that India's fishermen will continue to sing their traditional songs in future. With phones out to in it, to turn more exotic.